Welcome to Heart in Hand, the podcast that makes knob jokes in times of adversity. This week on Heart in Hand, you would think at our age we'd be used to a disappointing semi. So welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name's David Edgar, I'm your host, and I'm joined this week, it's a big week, so I'm joined by not one but two guests. First up is pod stalwart, Mr. Ian Hogg. How you doing, my man?
Good evening, David, I hope you're well.
Well, well is a really bad way to phrase it, Ian, so we're not off to a good start there. And making his flagship show debut after an impressive run on the Friday preview show is Andy McGowan.
Hi guys, glad to be back on.
Excellent. So, no point fannying about here, lads. I think we saw enough of that yesterday. Let's just get straight to it. The match at Hampden Park. Rangers versus Motherwell League Cup semi-final. First half was, having watched the game live, then watched it back. First half, Rangers were, I would say, slightly the better team. Certainly with most possession, and we had more opportunities, although I would say the best opportunity fell to Motherwell when their fullback crashed a shot that Ryan Jack somehow managed to get off the line, and Jack Annick made a good save after it. Some naughty elbows were thrown by Motherwell's Bowman, and we'll come back to that in the second half. I thought it had given us a good platform to go on and build from, but it turned out that it was actually the high water mark, because into the second half we had one of our now traditional 45 to 55 minute periods where we concede a goal, a really bad goal, a really scrappy, awful goal for Louis Moult. Didn't really threaten an awful lot after it. Josh Windass had missed a really good chance just before it, and Motherwell went up the park and pretty much scored from a set piece as well, which is disappointing, especially after the St Johnstone game where we'd handled them so well. Rangers kind of fought manfully. Pedro made a change. He brought on the man for the ineffectual Pena, but that meant the ineffectual Windass was shoved into the number 10 role. It didn't really work. And to be honest, the players didn't look like they thought they could get it back, and they certainly didn't when Louis Moult scored with a very nice finish where he's lobbed the keeper from the edge of the box. First of all, Andy, what were your thoughts on the actual game?
Not a million miles away from what you've just summarised there, David. I've got to say, I was at the game and I thought the first half we should have been ahead. We should have been ahead quite comfortably, despite Motherwell making a couple of chances and the chance that you referred to as well. My mind went back to what I said on the pod a couple of weeks ago about missing chances. Now, it might sound like the most obvious thing in the world that if you miss chances, you're not going to win games, but we had a chance in the first 3 minutes with Windass, and it was just an unbelievable miss. He could have done anything bar what he actually did. We had another miss with Windass. We had Candeas going close. We had Declan John going close with a header. We had Alves going close with a header. We had Morelos with a half chance. These are chances that if you get 6, 7 of them, one of them's got to be taken.
Absolutely.
So at half time, I thought we were in good position, because my dad, the doom monger, I said, well, we're still making chances here. I'd be more worried if we weren't making chances. But as you said, it just didn't happen.
The second half in particular, I got the impression, sometimes in a game you just know, and the feeling I had live, and I don't have it a lot, I'm not a pessimistic fan, I always think that we're in it, but after about 60 minutes I thought, I don't know if they think that they can get back into it. And when the second goal went in, we completely lost our discipline, Ian. Now, having been a player in the day that didn't mind losing your discipline sometimes, was that just frustration at the end, or after the manager was sent to the stand for complaining, I think legitimately, and we'll talk about the referee later, about the dreadful foul on Fabio Cardoso that went unpunished, and in fact Fabio Cardoso was left on the park bleeding after a head knock for almost a couple of minutes after it before treatment was given. Is it a worry for us, Ian, that instead of fighting back, they essentially, and I'm sorry to be overly critical of our team here, but they threw the toys out the pram?
Don't disagree with that at all, David. I think first first 30 minutes, easily the better side. I had that uneasy feeling as soon as Motherwell started making chances in the first half. Everyone was hoping for half time, and then, to be honest, as you say, we went one down to a scrappy goal. The players, I think Josh Windass probably summed, his performance in the second half certainly summed it up, where it was almost a cowardly, maybe unconsciously on his part, but a cowardly performance, hiding from responsibility. One or two lost it, definitely, but we were, I think, a mixture of frustration, a mixture of being bullied, either legally or illegally, by Motherwell, who squad for squad are not a better side than us, but they bullied us, and frankly, we collectively as a team shat it in the second half, and it's something I never expected from a Pedro built team, just to be dominated like schoolboys. Then Pedro loses the plot, and that's the point that we lost our discipline. I kind of broke a curfew, if you like, and listened to Sports Sound after the game to see what was being said. And Willie Miller talked about Alec Ferguson, and he said that good managers in his experience would try to instill a siege mentality, and they would go off and win at the sidelines. Remember Walter Smith doing it with Mixu Paatelainen?
Yeah.
And then stood back and let everybody else his backroom team sort it out. And it got a reaction. Pedro didn't do that. He just kept on going. And from there, you saw the players just simultaneously down in tools at 2-0. But they also lost their discipline. You've got Alves, you've got Herrera. I'm amazed both of them stayed on the park along with Molt. You had Candeas wanting to fight with anyone and everyone. As long as he was being held back, it was a true kind of let me at them type style. Frankly, it was A, a farce, and B, a disgrace.
Andy, big word there for me, and bullied. I've got to admit, I think we were as well, because I think that, yes, the referee, and as I say, we'll talk about, the referee let them away with a lot, but we did seem to shrink under it, and like he said, I'm not sure that I expected that from a Pedro side, but is that a fair thing to say, or are we both just maybe reading too much into a few incidents?
I think as the game progressed, the physicality became too much for us, because I think to start the game I was quite happy with the way we were stopping them doing what they want to do, which is make the game into a whirlwind, make it physical, get balls into the box, win corners, win set pieces. So I thought early doors we were kind of coping with that, and we were kind of holding up our hand. But as the game went on, the physicality went on. The referee clearly had a role to play in allowing that to happen, which is a different story altogether. And as the game went on in the second half, it just became too much for us, and that's where the frustration crept in, the lack of focus, the lack of discipline, and it just crept into the game. And the game plan, if there was one, went out the window. So I think we let the word bullying is what happened by the end of the game, but it could have been different if we had gone a goal up, because obviously change the complexity of the game. They've got to keep going. We can start to control it a bit. So I would say, second half we were bullied. First half, I thought we kind of coped with it quite well, as we did in the first game of the season at Fir Park.
I think that the two players who, certainly online and in my immediate group, and you can tell me if it's similar in yours guys, is the two players who seemed to get the brunt of the criticism yesterday were Josh Windass and Carlos Pena. And I can understand it, because, as we've spoken about on this pod before, if Pena does look like one of these guys who might do nothing in the game but then score a goal, but if he doesn't score the goal or do something brilliant, then that means he just does nothing in a game. And yesterday he was a non-factor, and it was yet another classic Windassian week, where on Friday the Rangers social media team post a picture of him scoring an absolute world day in training, and then yet when he gets onto the field, it just doesn't in any way transfer. And he clearly has no confidence in his ability to finish, and I think with good reason, and neither do we, because he misses key chance or he misses a key pass too often. And I think you can start with one of them. I don't think that you can carry both of them in a match, because for long periods you're really competing with 9 players, and I really felt that yesterday. I thought that they both really struggled to have any impact in the game. Ian, what are the options here? Do we write off Pena as talented but too flaky? Do we say, look, there might be a player in there, but it's going to take a surgeon, I think, to get it out? What do we do?
Well, we've talked about Windass before, and I'm firmly of the belief, he's got great technical ability, but sawdust between his ears. That he almost does the good stuff unconsciously when he's not thinking about it. It's almost like Kenny Miller of 10 years ago. He does the good stuff unconsciously, and then when he thinks about it, it's rabbit in the headlights stuff.
But he does a lot less good stuff than Kenny Miller of 10 years ago.
Well, indeed. And I must admit that the whole hiding from responsibility. So his dad was at the game yesterday. He must have been cringing inside, and if he's not, he should be. As for Pena, we'll go back to what was said umpteen times. Personal opinion is, I think we've all acknowledged that we see a player in there, and I'm sure we'll come on to it. What do we expect of Rangers? We expect winning, and can we afford the luxury in the current climate for a player to come and take a year, 18 months to adapt? And I think the answer is no to that. We can't write him off. We can't write him off with what we've paid. So that's a tough one. I think the key for Pena is he's now being ridiculed by the press, by opposition fans. It feels a bit like Reggie Blinker syndrome.
Andy, it feels like a big loss, and not the first time this season. And yesterday, my gut feeling is you may know, listeners, I do a kind of post-match YouTube video after every game, win, lose or draw, and the reaction is different, and I always say on it, maybe I'll feel different after sleeping on it. And yesterday was the first time where I felt after defeat that Pedro isn't going to be the man for the job, because no matter how much I want him to succeed, and this is not an uncommon view, all the fans I know feel this way, that they really desperately want the guy to succeed because he's very likeable, because he's very passionate, and because of the treatment that he's had from the media in this country. And I've been grasping on to anything at all, any sign that I could say, well, it's turning round, or give him a bit of time, or all that. And all the while, there's been a voice at the back of my head saying, he's not got it. It's not going to happen. You're seeing things that aren't there. And I've shut that voice up. But yesterday, for the first time, that voice overwhelmed the kind of optimistic one. And today, I've got to say, I haven't changed my mind on that. And given Pedro's press conference today, where he said that the players are an embarrassment to him, an embarrassment to the fans, an embarrassment to the club, it's a very strong statement. And in fact, you could say that it's the nuclear button for a manager, because once you've pressed it, it's pressed, and you either get a reaction or you don't, and if you don't, you've got nothing left. To me, given the way he's spoken about his players in the past, I thought that was a man who that defeat had haunted.
Yeah, I think for managers, there's always a tipping point, and I like to think I'm always at the kind of latter end of the tipping point, because I firmly believe you need to give managers time. I think, in particular, the Rangers' job just now is mammoth. I think there's so much baggage, there's so much peripheral stuff that we sometimes forget about. And I did it with McCoy, I did it with Warburton, but with both those managers, there was tipping points. I think with Warburton, it was the second defeat at Tynecastle. I finally realised, look, this isn't going to get any better. With McCoy, it was when we lost at Alloa after being 2-0 up. And yesterday, it felt much the same for Pedro Caixinha. I felt the last drops of the goodwill in the crowd are being wrung out, and I'm a firm believer that it's the crowd at the games that you can gauge it by. Forget Twitter, forget Collins, forget hotlines or even message boards on occasion. The fans at the ground that attend week in, week out are the ones that will actually turn the tide.
1,000%.
I feel like
absolutely.
when boards and directors will actually notice and think that this is change is required. I felt that yesterday, and personally, I felt it as well because I came out the game and nothing adds up in his defence. The players that he's picking are not. They're not coming through for him right now. You can blame the players. You can say they've got responsibilities, but I mentioned last time Windass. He would have been one of the first players out the door for me.
Yeah.
A heart of a mouse. You can't put that in a player. You can't make a professional player give them desire. They've got to come from within. He's put a lot of faith in him. It'll never be repaid. It's going to cost him his job. Pena's similar. He's simply so off the kind of speed of the game that he can't be played. There was an impact on Ryan Jack and Graham Dorrans yesterday because of it. The two of them were too petrified to take the ball off the goalkeeper yesterday because they were a man short in front of them. Pena could not keep possession no matter where he was given the ball in the park. So when you've got that, it spreads freers through the team. Tavernier hit more long balls yesterday than I've seen him do all season. Alves done the same. It was because with two players there, they were basically contributing nothing.
Yeah, and they had to cut out the team. If you
like. You've said about Windass. Sorry, David.
No, I'm just saying that because you're right, they had two guys that they went, oh, that's not an option. So it limited their option because they could tell what was if the ball went, it was coming back too quickly. So they're effectively being limited to 8 outfield players. No, I think it's I do. I think some days you just get the feeling that something has changed. And a chap posted on Twitter, and I forget your name, sir, so I'm very sorry if you're listening, but a friend has said, where does all this support come from? Because if you look at it, Pedro was brought in with a mandate because one of the things he said was, I'll assess the playing squad and hit the ground running, and I'll for the next season, but I'll also improve players who are here through coaching. And I don't think that happened. So okay, you go, right, well, he couldn't really turn that around, but we were prepared to say collectively, these are Warburton's players, we know they're diddies, and there's no manager could do anything with them. He got off to an impressive start because he got the players he wanted. I think the board did deliver more than we all expected in terms of backing and players and signings and whatnot. We started off disastrously with the Luxembourg result, with the Niederkorn result. And I hate when Scott's right. And Scott just starts off all the time, just the first sign of trouble, he'll go, aye, shite. But I went, no, it's okay, we need to get off to a winning start in the league, and then this is just a disappointment. And, the Hibs game happens, we start dropping points, and I say, well, okay, but once the team gets settled, there's good signs. And Partick Thistle away happens, we struggle past them in the League Cup. Celtic come, we don't lay a glove on them. And Pedro's 3 matches against Celtic, all of which have been so passive as to be asleep and so scared. Genuinely more scared than a relegation haunted side would be against Celtic. And they lost their record to Aberdeen. I mean, there's so many of these things, yet the fans, and I understand it because I'm one of them, would go, aye, but, and what if we'd scored in this one, and we could have been 4 points clear, or we could have been 4 points better off if it wasn't for refs, or we could have had 3 points more, or we could have won that if he hadn't missed that chance. And after a while, I just realised, hang on a minute, we're the kings of could have. There's nothing concrete that we can argue, apart from the fact that Pedro can't win 3 games in a row. Rangers went to play Motherwell in a League Cup semi-final and ended it well beaten. And it's not the first disaster. It's not even, now you can count them on one hand, disasters. And I want to, I really do. I mean, I really want to go, Pedro, you're right, I'm wrong. Guys that are backing Pedro, you're right, I'm wrong. But it's happened before, it happened with McCoy, it's happened with Warburton. And I'm late, I'm like you, Andy, I'm late to the party. And when I think it's gone, it's because it's gone, usually, because I am so overly optimistic. I wait far too long. And there are guys who would go in and cut it out much earlier. I don't do that, and I'd say it's a fault, but it's one based of an honest desire for people to succeed at the club and to think the best of everyone. But Ian, I can't do it anymore. I can't turn around and say I believe that this man will turn it round, because I've got no evidence other than just my own desire for him to be a success.
if you slightly different context, David, but Andy for me spot on. Yesterday was the Warburton at Tynecastle moment. And I remember you and I did the pod in February, David, where it was a completely different context. And I'll freely admit, I think you and I just lost our shit that night. And we took some abuse for it. That was fine. Tonight's a wee bit more despondent. We really like Pedro, but would be the inverted commas. At the end of the day, I want him to succeed, but I want each and every Rangers manager to succeed, because if they do, we do. Pedro's talked the talk, we've all liked that, but he's failed to deliver continually. And quite frankly, I'm at the point of past caring about Pedro. I want Rangers to be the first thought, not Pedro Caixinha, and it's now time to do the right thing by the club. If you look at the charge sheet, he's had 25 games. He's never won more than 2 in a row. We even did 3 games consecutively against Ross County, Dundee, Partick Thistle. He's got the thick end of he's got a 28% loss record. That's almost 1 in 3 games.
Which makes sense when you think about that 3 games seems to be the magic number.
So
winning one of 2.
Worst home defeat to Celtic ever. First home defeat to the Sheep. The last time we lost to the Sheep, Terry Waite was in a fucking hole in the Lebanon.
Yeah.
Worst ever European result. We effectively lost to the 4th best team in Luxembourg, and Luxembourg's got the population of Edinburgh.
We didn't effectively lose. We did.
Yeah. And
no qualification needed.
It's like losing to Spartans. And then yesterday we get bullied off the park. Second half to Motherwell, whilst the relatively expensively assembled squad shat it. Enough's enough.
No, I've got to agree, and I know that people will be listening and saying, well, David, you said that you thought there were signs of a good team. I really do, but I can't we can't sustain as a support on it could be. We're taking crumbs and trying to suggest that if we gather enough of them, we'll be able to make a full meal, and we won't, and it's not going to sustain us. And unfortunately, Pedro, wonderful guy, but if you just step away for a minute, and I actually asked a friend to do this from Northern Ireland. He's a Spurs fan. He doesn't really follow Scottish football, understandably, and I said to him, look, tell me Pedro, and he said, 1, his track record, he should have been nowhere near your job. 2, the amount of disasters that you guys seem willing to put up with it from him with no signs of improvement. And 3, the fact that he has been backed. He said, from the outside looking in, it seems crazy. And when I took off the kind of blue tinted spectacles, Andy, I had to agree.
I think the acid test, David, is the squad has improved, right? I don't think there's any doubt about it.
I agree.
But is he getting the most out of the squad? And the answer's no, because I maybe being a wee bit flippant here, but a Rangers team playing Motherwell at Hampden in a big park in a semi-final should 9 times out of 10 beat them without a manager, right? And I'm exaggerating for effect here, but yesterday that team could have done so much better. So many games we've played since Pedro came out, we could have played so much better. And that then points to the manager. I'm a great believer in making a decision after you've got a body of evidence to kind of base it on. Well, we've now got a body of evidence. And even myself, David, like yourself, a very, very optimistic and forgiving Rangers fan, I've not really got an excuse now. I cannot counter-argue somebody that tells me because Caixinha must go. No. I can't. And if I do, I'm doing it out of my heart rather than my head. So I think the time has come now that there would need to be the most spectacular resurrections for him to turn this around. And God, I hope he does it.
Yeah, I think he's actually... I can't think of any other manager in our history who could have had what he had and clung on. Maybe Mali because of the circumstances, but even at that, it's just been humiliation after humiliation, and we've kept saying it's not his fault. And at some point, the goodwill has to run out. And you have to say, Pedro, you're a cracking bloke, you really are, and the fans, they all adore you, but you're just not good enough to be the manager at our club. And in many ways, it's like some of the players we've had over the years, youngsters coming through that you know are Rangers fans, and you're desperate for them to succeed, but after a while, as you say, after a body of evidence, they're let go because you just know they're not going to hit the required standard. And the problem I have in terms of recharging my optimism barometer, which usually happens the night after, give it 24 hours, sleep on it, wake up, bit calmer, bit more rational. The reason that it's not working this time is I do know what's likely to happen this week. We're likely to beat Kilmarnock and then lose to Hearts. We're likely to win the games against, if you like, the bottom 6 teams, and as soon as we go into a game with a challenge, we will lose. And because we've already lost so many of these, and the fans, in my anecdotal evidence and experience, don't believe Pedro's going to do it, that seeps through to the team, and a losing culture is fostered and developed. Some managers, the old thing is, I'd rather have a lucky manager sometimes than a good one, right? And I think Ek's a great example of a manager who, a lot of the time the chips fell for him, which is great. But some managers are winners and some are just losers. And Pedro, unfortunately, I think is a loser. And I nice guy, bold, ambitious experiment at a time where I'm not sure we should have been taking bold and ambitious experiments, but we're coming to that. But yesterday was, for me, I can't keep lying to myself. I know what's going on here. I feel like, the partner of a cheating spouse who knows, you find the receipts and the dodgy excuses about staying over at a mate's house, but you just don't want to confront it. And that's kind of where I am with Pedro. Now, it seems that we're in agreement here, and I'm with you, Andy. I believe that the majority of the rank and file support, the guys who go every week, I think they're closer to this closer to us than the guys who say no, we've got to keep him. Do we trust this board to make the right appointment next? Start off with you, Andy.
Well, I'll be honest, this is my greatest fear, and this is probably one of the reasons that I've been so hopeful that Pedro is a solution, because what happens next is a real problem for us, because both in the short term and the long term, we've got a problem here. In the short term, we're 6 points off top just now. That potentially, if we're being optimistic on Wednesday, could be cut further if either Aberdeen or Celtic drop points, which will happen. So if we temper the kind of discussion we're having here and say, right, well, let's look at it realistically in the league. We've just had a tremendously bad result in the cup, but in the league, well, it's still there, right? We're still there or thereabouts, despite everything. And we have got 5 games coming up, which I think are undeniably winnable. But they were part of a 7-game run of games that was going to be a defining period, and it's just been lanced completely by that result. So if you look forward, if we get rid of Pedro, first of all, if we sack him just now, with no permanent replacement lined up, where are we? We're back to Murty, we're back to an interim Stuart McCaw or something like that. I don't think that is much better than sticking with the guy. I really don't. I don't think you get much from that.
No, that's a very fair point. So,
and sorry, David. The second point I was going to say is that what is the profile of our next manager? Right? Does he have to be British because we seem to be locked into a physical league that is not going to change? Does he have to have a Rangers background to kind of compensate for the shite that he's going to have to put up with in terms of the peripheral situation with the club, which is still undeniably there? Are we going to have a share issue to budget it? Are we going to leave it down to the director of football? What's his role? So there's all these things at play here, which it's not a case of sack Pedro and get somebody in. I think we've got a major problem in our hands in terms of getting the next guy. Is it McInnes? Because see, if it's McInnes, I can see the logic. But I don't particularly want McInnes because I watch Aberdeen and I don't like watching them, and I don't like the way they set up, and I think it's backwards. And I think again that's maybe something we've clung to Pedro, this kind of notion that it might be progressive and it might change things. So I'm worried. I'm very worried.
That's all very fair points. I think that in terms of managers, if you go, if you like, the straightforward route, then Derek McInnes ticks a lot of boxes. But as you say, the football that Aberdeen play isn't great. And on top of that, I'd mentioned earlier, some managers are winners. Derek McInnes had a long period to have a crack at Celtic, and a poor Celtic under Ronnie Dyler, and didn't lay a glove on them. So, you know, we could be moving from a guy who doesn't have it to a local guy who doesn't have it. Then you look at perhaps a statement manager. Well, firstly, do we have the cash? Probably not, but I will give the board their due. They've dug in and got money before, so who knows. But do you do what Celtic did, where you say, well, we're going to, the majority of the money is going to go on the manager at the moment because we ain't getting a good coach in? And there's no doubt Rodgers has improved them. I said this yesterday about a statement manager, and a few people come back and went, what, Rodgers is a statement manager? And look, he's a shiny-faced, melon-toothed fud, but he is a good manager. And at the end of the day, you were coming off the guy, the ex-Liverpool manager, coming to Scotland was a coup, and it's just silly to pretend it wasn't. It was a big signing for them. So do you then go for someone like, well, the name that keeps bringing up, Frank de Boer, who was a guy we probably couldn't have got previously, but you know, he needs to, he's in a position now where he absolutely has to recycle his reputation, if you will, after coming off failures at Inter and Crystal Palace. But again, you know, Dutch coaches, as we know from experience, can be very arrogant, can be very, this is my way and we're going to play it or else. And, you know, I don't know if our fans would accept that if it didn't bring instant success, which it didn't at Inter and it didn't at Crystal Palace. And he himself said it could take years to get you all playing the way I want to. So then you go, well, do we try and attract someone from maybe the Championship? But again, is the Warburton stigma there? And people say, oh, we've done that before and it didn't work. So I think you're absolutely right. And Graham Murty, I think, did all right in his caretaker role, but I know other people disagree. And to be honest, I think you're right. I don't think it solves anything. It just puts us into more, I think it just stamps official crisis club on us rather than, you know, we're getting behind the manager and struggling. But my big theory is we come into a period where the fans turn really badly on both the manager and the side, and if that happens, if the board don't have a plan in place now, because they must know that at best they might have to make a change, then I think that's a dereliction of duty.
Only agree. If the board don't have a plan B, then frankly it's not good enough. I don't expect Pedro to be there much longer. Cards on the table. I don't much agree. I don't much believe in coincidence, David, as you know. I think today's press conference was pretty telling when Pedro has gone from a couple of weeks ago of what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas to fuck them, they're a complete embarrassment. Then just after that, at 12:43 p.m. today, the club tweeted, so the press conference will be up very soon on Rangers TV and YouTube. 8 hours later, we're still waiting. As I say, maybe I'm reading too much into it. In terms of the, let's assume he goes, the what happens next, I'd rather we focused on, rather than names first, I'd rather we focused on almost what our requirements are as a club. And we've gone through two periods in a football sense of, inverted commas, the new fad of projects. But football projects suggest that failure is tolerated. And I'll go back to what I've said on a number of pods. We're Rangers. We're a massive club, an institution. Winning's in our blood and we need to win. We can't have a third project with a manager handpicked by a footballing board who fucked up the previous two out of two. We need, for me, those requirements are we get back to basics. Winning constantly, 4, 5, 6, 10 games in a row. At the minute, I genuinely couldn't give a damn about the brand of football. I'd rather we went back to basics. We fight fire with fire. If that means that we fight fire with hammer throwing cunts around the league, and we build a team of fighters and grafters and winners, and then we add the football on top of a spine, I'm actually quite into that. I do believe we need someone with a record of turning teams around within the UK. Doesn't have to be a British manager, but they need to have a record of building such teams. We could go with that short-term fix, the Alex McLeish, the Walter Smith. I want to be crystal clear. Alex McLeish might get about the current squad, but history dictates for him that he goes downhill when he starts to rebuild. And Walter wouldn't want the hassle, let's face it.
No.
McInnes, Andy, you mentioned McInnes. Likewise, I don't want McInnes. I think he's suited to small-time club mentality and being a nearly man, and did cost £1 million. Wouldn't surprise me one little bit if Kenny Miller was appointed interim player manager. But hold that thought for a second whilst you both laugh.
Yeah, and spontaneously combust more, like, you know, you'll need to take over hosting duties.
Two names against those requirements. If we all believe those are the requirements, and just looking at managers that are out of work, two names for me stand out. Sam Allardyce, think Bolton, Blackburn, Crystal Palace, and Nigel Pearson, think Leicester before Ranieri took over. And there's two guys that have got success in the UK of building teams up. There's some other dark horses kicking around. Paulo Sousa did it with Swansea. Alan Pardew, although magic circus around that. And
the Alea Casino would be happy if he arrived right enough.
Yeah, indeed. And I guess you talked earlier about pushing the boat out, about thinking big, about statement managers. Laurent Blanc did exactly that rebuilding process at Bordeaux and took them from being an absolute shambles to him getting the French job. He's been out of work for 16 months. That could be your trophy manager.
I think that I don't believe that some of those are realistic. I'll be honest. I mean, the likes of Allardyce, one, he tends to bring a backroom team of about 25 with him wherever he goes. And two, I believe that if he takes a job in I think it's about 18 months, he owes Crystal Palace $2 million. So I don't think he's realistic. But I get where you're coming from with the names. And I do agree with being ambitious, because this week alone, Kilmarnock got Steve Clarke. Now, you know, obviously we can all think what we like about Steve Clarke, but that's a big coup for Kilmarnock. And I think that if you don't... What I just want with whoever is the new appointment, and people might say, why are you speaking about manager? We've got one. I agree with the boys. I don't think for much longer. And wouldn't it be nice to get a manager we were pleasantly surprised about, as opposed to one that we had to look up on Wikipedia? Andy, I've got to admit to a bit of frustration that we're sitting here saying, well, what we need to do is sit down and look at the type of guy we want and then look at where it needs to go. We're only talking 7 months after this happened.
Yeah. I mean, I think today, just a word on the press conference today, I think what we saw today was a guy with nothing to lose. I think he knows the writing's on the wall here, and basically, I think after the Celtic game we had the summit where the players spoke to the management and vice versa, and I called that the kind of nuclear bomb. I think you referred to it as well as that, David. He's done the same again today, because there's no much left in the tank to do, because he's fighting for his job here. But back to the managers, who do we get next? It's I don't have the knowledge to say who, right? If I had to say a kind of prototype or archetypical manager, say Tony Pulis, right? But that's not realistic. But that's the kind of guy we're looking for. Somebody that's hard as nails, but also knows the game inside out and can make players respond. I think this kind of mollycoddling players to come out of their shell and become Rangers players, it's not going to happen. We need players to stand up, be counted, and be Rangers players. Now, you do that with a British-based team, I think. If you look back to the past, we've bought players in the past that you probably wouldn't have thought of. John Brown's the example I always use. A guy playing the Scottish leagues, under our nose, and what a player he became. There are players like that around the country, Scotland and England. You just need to look at Motherwell yesterday. Half that team are playing non-league a couple of seasons ago, and look at the performances they're pulling out of them. If you can get a team that functions, as Ian says, he's absolutely spot on. He's probably reminded me of something that I forgot. If you've got a team that can fight first and foremost, you can add players to it that add the guile and the skill. Maybe that's where we need to go. We need to go back to basics. But I'm very interested to see what the director of football's role is in this, because the other point here, a director of football, is you go for a manager. Will they want to work under a director of football? Does he know the director of football? Is that relationship key, or is it just a case of scouting? I don't know, because we've never been really told.
I do wonder sometimes in terms of signing. See, I've advocated before, and I stand by it, that the way for a club to get back to success after a period of not having it is to look at the Celtic model from the 90s, which is buy up the best affordable talent in your league and the most exciting affordable talent in your league, and then over time complement that with, if you like, as you say, the kind of marquee signings from abroad, again, that's within your budget. And I think that Louis Moult is a good example of that. Now, people will know I banged on about him in the summer, and I said we should sign him, and I stand by it. And it's easy for me to come back on here and say, "Oh, I told you so" after this. But it's not his first good performance, and it's not like suddenly I've got a great eye for a player. He scored plenty of goals for a shit Motherwell side last season. He was a good player. He was available for 600 grand, and it makes no sense at all that we didn't go for him. And I think that some of our support suffer from the kind of pickiest guy in the soup kitchen queue mentality, which is, well, actually, I don't like chicken and vegetable. Sometimes you need to take what you can get, and the amount of players that we have lost by going, well, he's playing for Motherwell, he must be shite, he's playing for Hearts, must be shite, whereas, oh, unknown Mexican, how exciting. And yeah, I understand that. I get excited by it. It's the 90s mentality, and it makes me go, ooh, and if you don't know a lot about a player, you can project onto him and imagine that he's going to do all these great things. The fact is that we are in a position where, I think both of you have come across it, where we need to win first and foremost, and for that you need battlers, because we will be up against it. We've seen that. Teams raise their game against us. Teams really push to they really want to beat us, more so bizarrely than they want to beat, the undefeated team for the last 14 months. But they do. And I just don't see... Some people as well listening might be going, well, guys, you're pointing out a lot of problems, but you're not offering a lot of solutions. And it's because the solutions aren't easy. And it will take people with probably intelligence far, far greater than mine, and certainly salaries far greater than mine, to come up with these solutions, but that's what they're paid for. Sometimes the options you have are not a great one and then several others. Sometimes it's shit option and slightly less shit option, and we might need to find the slightly less shit one for a while, up until we bring ourselves back to a level where the options appear a bit better. Because short of one of us winning the Euro Millions and putting the money into the club, it's not going to change rapidly. And I do worry, and I understand it because I do it myself, but I do worry that too many of us want to run before we can walk, and we keep falling because we're just missing a stage. And Pedro was a swing for the fences, there's no doubt about it. It hasn't worked, it's not going to work. I don't agree with, it's cost us a season, because, it's the inexorable march of time. We'll get another go at it next season, But I just think that we need the board to sit down, acknowledge their mistake, acknowledge what they have done wrong, and then say, this is how we right it. And there's a lot of people at that club who earn good money to do exactly that. And I think it's time for them to do that and to face up to the mistake that they've made, deal with it, and come up with a better solution by learning from the error they made last time. Ian?
I think there's also one point to add to that, David, and as you know, I kind of pride myself in being a cynical pessimist as opposed to the eternal optimist. But, you get in the run-up to a game, and the optimism in me does bubble up to the top. I think the key just now is we've also got to recognise the season's not over. It's the 23rd.
Yeah, no one near.
It's the 23rd of October. We are only 6 points behind the top two, who are playing each other this week, and as Andy said, are going to drop points. One of them will, both of them might. We're only 6 points behind, and the Scottish Cup's there to play for. So we can either throw in the towel and chuck it, or we can make change to try and make things better. Just for me, plundering along and hoping it'll get better whilst all the while there's a continuous cycle can't be the answer. It just can't be. If we can make positive change, we can make inroads in this league. I genuinely believe that. But we've got to put together that solid winning run, winning mentality, change the narrative around the club. And in terms of, do I trust that to happen? Yeah, I'm really quite, going back to what Andy said, I'm quite fearful as to what happens next and who's making the decision, and do I trust them to make the right choice? As you say, there's people employed at that club on huge salaries that are there to actually make those choices. I think they've just made them poorly to date. And, what I'll say, David, and let's not mince our words around this, 2 out of 2 have been wrong with this current board. They had damn well better make the next one fucking right.
Well, I just think that there's consequences in most jobs, and there's consequences for Pedro, quite obviously. There's consequences for a manager. There's consequences in any job for poor performance. And you're right, if this appointment is botched, which is probably the most key thing that can happen, then there should be consequences for the people who are making that decision. And certainly if it's the case that they're running the ship, they should remove themselves from it and hand it over to someone who knows a bit more about it. I think then, that our position is clear. Let us know what you think. You'll get the boys at the end, but I'm on Twitter at IbroxRocks. You can contact the podcast on Facebook if you go to and just search for Heart and Hand, the Facebook, the Rangers podcast on Facebook, and you'll find us. So, let us know. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, you're premature and all the rest, but I really don't think we are, because it's, to put it, to put it euphemistically, right now I've got toothache. And I'm pretending that I don't need to go to the dentist because I fucking hate going to the dentist. Now, I know I'm going to have to go to the dentist eventually, but right now I'm taking ibuprofen and going, nah, I'll be fine. It's just a bit of sensitive teeth. It's not. It's fucking toothache, right? That's what you're doing, unfortunately. You know what it is, but you're pretending it's something different because you don't want to admit it. And I get it. I'm the same. We're all going to have to go on this journey at some point. And for some of us, it will be longer and more painful than it is for others. We all get off the bus at different stops, but eventually everybody will be on the bus. Now, we can't leave the game, and I hate doing it after a defeat because, sour grapes. It's not, because I think it's pretty clear that we've got 50 minutes into this show and we place the blame squarely on Rangers' poor performance. But the standard of refereeing on Sunday was shocking. And it's now at least the 5th or 6th Rangers game this season where I've said, bloody hell, the referees are awful. And for me, I think part of it is that I watch a lot of football, I watch a lot of European football, and the refereeing just isn't as bad. You can't argue with it just isn't as bad. And I get that maybe you don't bring through talented players in each country, but surely you can bring up referees to the same standard. Why are our referees so bad? First up, Andy, you can explain this eternal question.
I've got strong views on this. I've had strong views on this for a long time, because it doesn't matter how many Malky Mackay, Project Braves you have, or Henry McLeish think tanks. If you let physicality be rewarded in your football, then that's what will reign, and that's what we've got now. We've seen it yesterday. It was brutality yesterday, and we're not making excuses for Rangers being defeated. It was a factor, because tackles were flying, elbows were flying, things were going on which in any other league in Europe would not have stood. There would have been bookings, there would have been sending offs, and it would have been stamped out. So it's actually a kind of intrinsic thing in football, or Scottish football, which I think is curtailing the progress of players. It's progressing the kind of advancement of tactical thought. It's curtailing everything that we don't have, and then we wonder why Scottish football's shit, and we can't get World Cups, and we can't get European Championships, and the majority of our football teams fail spectacularly against lower league teams in Europe. I think that there's an entire sea change required, and I'm not just saying that because of yesterday. I've been saying this for years now, actually.
No, you have, and I think you touched upon a key point there, that to if you like illustrate that attitude, Bruno Alves came out and said, this is appalling, it's a problem the amount of physicality you allow in your league, and straight away people went, that's what it's like in Scotland, get used to it, you pansy. And I just thought, yeah, because it's working. You know, our game is so fucking healthy that we can absolutely just disregard, because Portugal, what the fuck have they won? You know, and it was a hammer throwing game. It wasn't particularly entertaining, so you can't say, oh, people love the Blood and Thunder game. If you watched it as a neutral, as I say, I've watched it twice now, it was a shit game. I mean, there was better football on over the weekend. And if you want, I mean, there was a UFC on Saturday night, if blood's your thing. So, Ian, it does appear that we've got either referees who are too scared to give decisions. In fact, I don't even think that's valid based on yesterday, because how the hell can you miss a guy being thumped so badly that his nose gets broken?
I agree there. You know, I'd rather be talking about refereeing after a win. Otherwise, I agree, it tends to sound like sour grapes. But yesterday was just different. Yesterday was just downright dangerous. And it's the lack of authority from the referee, Stephen McLean, that resulted in a badly broken nose. I mean, Jesus, you saw the state of it on social media. And the melee towards the end when, frankly, Alves, Herrera and Molt probably should have been sent off. Question is then, what can be done about it? I'll take a slightly parochial view that might end up with the same outcome and say it's not up to us, it's not up to Rangers to improve the officiating, but it is up to Rangers to look after our own interests. And I found there was an interview with Brendan Rodgers doing the rounds today, probably from his press conference, I'm guessing. And we all know that the media in this country like to treat St Brenda's comments with a bit of a reach around in a Kleenex. So he got asked about the penalty that Hibs got on Saturday, and he tells the world that the linesman got it wrong and he apologised. And he talks about our game, and he talks about the apparent sympathy for Caixinha. And, you know, the decisions worried me, the officiating was poor. It was like the 80s, but then he throws in, and the player involved, he was talking about Bowman, had a similar incident at Parkhead with Kieran Tierney last season. And for me, there you have it. That was a kind of professionalism from Rodgers. It was sod all to do with Rangers. It was sod all to do with Pedro. It was all about control of the narratives ahead of big games and the cup final against Motherwell. It's professional. It's obvious. We just don't do it. In that respect, I believe our board are actually failing Rangers, and because of it, we become a soft touch, and in turn, that officiating is allowed to continue. I believe if we were out there front and centre, the officiating by default would improve. It's going to take a long time, and alongside that, there's got to be, you know, programmes of improvement and all that kind of bullshit that was talked about for years and years and years. But Rangers have to look after our own shit, and at the minute we're not doing it.
That's a good point. You know, if I just come in for a second there about what you're saying, Ian, there's two instances happened this year where Rangers were kind of naively restrained, where they could have went to absolute town on the referees and changed the narrative, as you say. The first one was the Hibs game, because we've all seen that. We didn't really say anything after that. I've got to say that we were quite
meek.
Dignified, the word we always used.
No, meek is the one I would use.
And then again, at the Celtic game, we had incident where Caixinha highlighted Brown's elbow, and it died a death as well. These are things that you say, Ian, are correct. We should have been driving this home and saying, right, wait a minute, let's get this on the newsreels, let's get this on YouTube, let's get this on social media. We've stood back and let it happen, and I don't know why.
I agree with both of you, and I agree, Ian, that Rodgers didn't bring this up out of a sense of you know, helping us. He did it because, you're right, he wants to change the narrative and make sure that our referee's looking out for Bowman in the cup final. However, if you just again take a step back, we have a footballer here who within a calendar year has knocked out a player's teeth and then smashed a player's nose. This is a dangerous player, and managers will always give you, he's not that type of player, and I think, fuck, it's remarkable because nobody seems to be that type of player. Bowman is that type of player. He injures his opponents. He's a dangerous and reckless player. And it wouldn't be tolerated in any other league, any other seat or top league, top division league in Europe, because you would not be allowed to play like that. And unfortunately, people in our support will say, well, we just need to toughen up and give it back. And you're like, well, like Ryan Jack did and got sent off for hee-haw. That's the problem that we face, is that officials here don't punish the instigator. They don't punish the initial sinner, if you like, but they'll go badly after anyone who does something to try and protect themselves afterwards. And I can understand players getting frustrated with it. We did lose our discipline, which would have been better channelled into getting us back in the game yesterday. But I can understand if you think that the referee's going to let people away with belting you, that you might think, fuck it. If that's the way it's going to be, then I'm going to go down this road as well. But Andy is spot on. It holds us back. It holds us back as a country, and it probably won't. Nothing in Scottish football changes, as you said, Andy. We can have task forces up the arse. We seem to have had a task force every year I've been alive, and nothing ever changes, because at the end of the day, people just can get away with. You get away with the Bowmans of this world, who are throwbacks to the 1980s.
And that's after, David. Sorry, Andy. That's after all the pre-match press around the fella Hartley. Don't know his first name.
Peter.
The fella Hartley telling the world that he's going to smash up Morelos. And as you say, Bowman's history. It's tolerated in a kind of dinosaur footballing society. That's why I do think it is up to Rangers to be changing the narrative, to be front and centre, to be out there, to be, he did this in the past, he did this in the other game, I hope the referee's going to be tough, so on and so on. But we just don't. We generally never ever have. And therefore, we end up, it's almost I believe in life you tend to get the outcome you deserve. And in this sense, that's a natural outcome if we're not going to challenge it.
No, I can't argue. Well, I think, we've covered a lot of the topics that arose from the weekend. We obviously have a game this Wednesday. We're playing Kilmarnock, and we can only go at the time of recording. Pedro is still in charge, although, as you said, and it seems to be gathering some momentum on social media, the press conference not being released has certainly got tongues wagging. So we'll see what happens with it. But as we stand right now, Kilmarnock, Steve Clarke appointed as our new manager. Rangers going into it in the back of a bad result. Kenny Miller, seen at the game with Dave King. Quite clearly no fan of the manager, and you don't have to be a genius to work that one out. Are we likely to see Kenny Miller return on Wednesday, even if Pedro is still there, Andy?
No, I think there's a breakdown relationship there. I think it would be a sign of weakness, or Caixinha would see it as a sign of weakness if he brought him back. I'll be honest, I don't think it would make much difference. It's not as if Kenny's been ripping it up this year. So I don't expect to see Miller back in a Rangers jersey as long as Caixinha's there. If Caixinha goes, then if we get the kind of safe pair of hands type that we're thinking might come along, the probably first thing they'll do is turn to Kenny and get him in the team. I think it's hanging a bit like a bad smell now, and it's also another subtext we don't need. And when you add it all together, the results, the Miller thing, the Dave King being here at all, it just adds to a situation where it doesn't sit right, apart from the obvious, if that makes sense. There's something in the wind is basically what's happening, even before yesterday.
Again, just symbols and emblems of managerial Rainsy, and the. What did it say about Pedro's position that Dave King was pictured, and let's be honest, it wasn't like they were trying to hide it, pictured chatting away to Kenny Miller before the match?
I'm only surprised as there wasn't selfies being taken, David. I think you had Lee Wallace sticking up for Kenny Miller, both of them chatting to the chairman, to Dave King. Who, incidentally, as a complete aside, I thought Dave King. Dave King gets a lot of bad press, but TV broke straight. The first thing he did at the final whistle was go and congratulate the Motherwell management team.
He should have hooked. He should have hooked one of them.
I thought that was spot on.
No, he should have set fire to the VIP box and in the confusion claimed a draw.
Fair enough. But we'll go back to I don't believe in coincidence. Dave King doesn't like going to games. He's actually said that. He prefers watching them on Rangers TV because he doesn't need to leave South Africa. And all of a sudden,
understandable. It's a cunt of a taxi.
Absolutely. And, symbolism, lack of coincidence, etc. Just happens to be sitting beside the captain and the most vocal, apparently outspoken critic of the manager and the playing squad who's been ostracised. I don't believe any of it's a coincidence. I don't believe Pedro will be there much longer. I'll be surprised if he's there probably Wednesday, let alone Saturday. I do think it's a poor show, right? I believe this under Paul Le Guen. I believe this just now. I do think it's poor when player power and individual player power wins. I believed it with Ferguson under Paul Le Guen. I believe it with Miller under here. However, the flip side is Ferguson and Miller are winners. Paul Le Guen and Pedro Caixinha aren't.
That's a good point. Andy, from a football point of view, what changes would you make? What changes can we make for Wednesday?
I think, practically speaking, the first thing I would do is shore up the left-hand side. One of the few kind of positives I saw on Sunday was Declan. I still can't say that name. Declan John.
Dylan Watts. I just call him Elton.
Declan John was the only one that was brave enough to kind of move forward with the ball, take men on, try and advance the team.
Get him behind.
I think we could probably use him further up the park instead of Windass. Hodson's not the answer long term, not a long shot, but he could come in and do a job for us against Kilmarnock surely at left back and have John in front of him. And apart from that, we've got to look at Pena.
Yeah.
It's one thing persevering and having faith with a guy, but if it's blind faith and it's to the detriment of other players, so you're not just losing one player, you're losing potentially Ryan Jack and Graham Dorn's effectiveness, it can't happen. So I think it really has to bite the bullet with this. You need a result, don't play him. Put him on the bench. If you can bring him off, bring him off and bring him on in the second half and can I use him as an impact sub if we need to. But I think there's a definite shout to get Jason Holt back in the team, push Dorns forward a wee bit, and see if that adds a wee bit of dynamism to the team, both on the left-hand side and in the middle of the park. That might spark something.
Those are two changes I'd be perfectly happy with. Other options is you could play Herrera up top with Morelos, which you run the risk of then the team just play at the big man as opposed to through him. But it gives you that option to hit it long if you want to do that. So there are options there. Jason Holt could come in, as you say, push Graham Dorrans that bit further forward. I think there has to be. I don't think the fans will be particularly forgiving if both Windass and Pena start badly. And we all know what Ibrox can be like for a player who the fans have turned on. So predictions, gentlemen. Ian, up first.
I'm fearful, I have to say, as in my usual cynical, pessimistic way. Kilmarnock's first game led by Stevie Clarke. They've got a point to prove. Wouldn't surprise me if we drop points in both the next two games, Kilmarnock and Hearts. So I'm going to go unstaunchly for 1-1.
Andy?
I've got a Gary B. You've practically said exactly what I was going to say. I think there's going to be a hangover here. And I think with a new manager at Kilmarnock, they'll be very, very stuffy. And if we don't get an early goal in the first 20 minutes, I think we could deteriorate. I hope that's not the case, obviously, but I think if we don't score in the first half and go in at half time at least a goal up, I think we'll draw.
Well, I think just add, sorry David, just add to that, Andy. I think the key is, we've got the next 46 and a half hours until kick-off on Wednesday. see if a change is made by then, I suspect we'd win 5-0. If a change isn't made, we could end up, we could draw or lose.
Well,
I think that
I'm going to disagree.
I think there's a psychological thing.
With the players at the moment, I think there is as well. I think it's a very unhappy camp and you can see it. But I'm going to disagree with Father Hogg and Monsignor McGowan there and their unstaunch predictions. I'm going to say Rangers are going to win 2-0, based entirely on blind faith, but I haven't completely abandoned it as a religion. So I think we'll do it, but I am fearful about Saturday because Hearts, I think, are a good example of... people say, well, what will changing the manager do? Levine's picked up 11 points out of 18 in his time there. And I know people joked about him picking the team previously. He wasn't. And removing Cathro, it didn't make these players suddenly become better players overnight, but it was clearly it removed something that wasn't working from the equation. And sometimes you have to do that. Sorry, Andy, I spoke over you there. What was the point you were going to make?
Basically, I was going to say, I think there's a psychological issue here. I think the team played with fear on Sunday. I think it came from the kind of rhetoric that Pedro's coming out with, this win-win thing. They played with fear. They were absolutely terrified to make a mistake. And I think that's a hard thing to shake, especially when you've had a press conference of the ilk we saw today, where he's basically piling more pressure and expectation on them. So I think that, as you say, Ian, if you change the manager tomorrow, you might see a reaction in a positive sense.
Well, it could well be. If there are any significant changes, then go to our YouTube channel for an immediate response. That's the place you'll find it. Now, normally at this point I'd be saying we'll be back later in the week. I'm not sure we will be this week because I'm moving house and I don't know what the situation will be in terms of recording something, but I will do my best to get something out on Thursday for the Heart and Hand Extra. But this may be a week that we have to miss, unfortunately, as real life creeps into Podland. Before I go, I just would like before we go, I'd just like to thank the listeners for Heart and Hand because, again, we announced our live show at the Loudon Tavern on December the 2nd, starring Kevin Thompson, and we put the tickets up for sale and they sold out in 3 minutes. 2 minutes 24 seconds to be precise, and I can't thank you enough. Your loyalty to the pod and the support you give us is absolutely incredible, and we are very, very, very grateful for it, so thank you for that. So all that remains for me to do then is to thank our executive producers in London, Mr. Mike Lee and Paul Myers, and to thank my two guests who came on. It's not an easy show to do after a big defeat, and it takes a set, so thank you very much. First of all, Andy McGowan.
No problem, David. Pleasure.
And thank you very much to Ian Hogg.
Thanks, guys. Thanks everyone for listening.
My name's David Edgar. Blind faith loyal. Let's all hold hands and staunch our way through this. Lots of love. I'll speak to you again soon. Bye.